All right, it's a big challenge where neither side is even remotely approaching or even talking to the other side. That is possible, given my next guest here, John Boehner, of course, the former Speaker of the House, Joe Crowley, the former Democratic Caucus chair. They've joined on a number of fronts to prove that you can get things done and you can move the ball forward if you get past a lot of political agita and all of that. John Boehner, good to have you. Joe Crowley, the same. Welcome, gentlemen.
Neil, good to be with you.
Good to be with you, Neil.
All right. Thank you, guys. John Boehner, I want to go to you first because I know I have to wait till the spring to get your book on the House of Washington memoir. But may I say, sir, based on the cover alone, this is going to blow away any political tone or otherwise. The cover is a mix of Austin Powers and, dare I say, Barry White. Brilliant, touche. Now, what's inside it? I guess that's important, too.
Well, Neil, it's been a fun project putting it together. And it's not some A to Z political memoir. It tells kind of my whole story, but it does it in a very interesting way. And I would say a very entertaining way.
What I like is, and for those who didn't cover you the day when you were Speaker and before that, a rising Republican star, you might have had a brusque manner. I guess some would look at it that way, but you never took yourself too seriously, and you would always, throw a zinger here and there, including at members of your own party. Is it safe to say, Speaker, that this and that cover will be illustrative of the approach you're taking?
I think, Neil, you know me pretty well, that what is, and the book is me. I wrote every word in the book, and trust me, you'll get the whole story, and I won't be any different than I've ever been.
All right, because it has a Mad Men feel to it. I can't wait to get into that, but rarely does a book generate this kind of excitement, literally sight unseen. So, Joe Crowley, that's going to put enormous pressure on you. When your book comes out, I know it's not too long, but you're going to have to do something like this. I don't know if you get a similar chair or backdrop, but that's a tough act to follow. So, Joe, let me in all seriousness begin with you on this notion. Some of your fellow Democratic friends have been honing in on this nomination that the president is on the verge of making for the Supreme Court, I think on Saturday, to say stop it at all cost. We have other arrows in our quiver. To quote Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says we must do anything and everything we can to stop this. What do you make of all that?
Well, then before I do that, let me just pay tribute to my friend and former colleague, John Boehner. It was a pleasure working with him in the House, and I have the special gift of getting to work with him in my post-House career now at Squire Patton Boggs. He's been a pleasure, and he's a great American. When it comes to this particular issue, there's no question that it hits at the heartstrings of all Americans. And I don't know what those arrows are in the quiver. What I do believe is that there should be no confirmation before inauguration. And I just think out of the general sense of American fairness, that be the case.
John Boehner, maybe Mitch McConnell planted the seeds for this by not taking up the Merrick Garland nomination 4 years ago when Barack Obama still had 10 months left of his presidency. So this is a tit for tat on the part of Democrats saying you did that, we're going to subscribe to the same rules you used then. But the fact of the matter is Democrats have said in the past that it's not a good idea to do this in the middle of an election year. Now, of course, here we are. Where do you think this goes?
Well, Neil, the Constitution is pretty clear that the president will nominate someone, and it's up to the United States Senate to confirm them or not. But Republicans have the majority in the United States Senate. The president is a Republican. And I know what was said a couple of years ago. But the Constitution lays out the case where the Senate can proceed. And frankly, I hope they do. Having this hang out there through the election day, I don't think does anybody any good. Now, some would say it's a rush. Okay, that's a risk that they'll have to take with the voters. But it looks to me like they're going to proceed. I would venture to say that whoever the nominee is probably already sits on the federal bench, has probably already been vetted and confirmed by the Senate at one time or the other for the position they currently hold. And so this is not like reinventing the wheel here. This ought to be able to move rather smoothly over the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, you might be right about that. The two most frequently mentioned names, Judge Amy Coney Barrett and, of course, Judge Barbara Lagoa, who already sit on courts that needed Senate confirmation, have been fully vetted. So we'll see where this goes. But Joe Crowley, on this notion that Democrats have promised, if this were to go through, that I believe it was Ed Markey of Massachusetts, that we will proceed with trying to pack the courts, address the filibuster thing, and on we go. Where does all of this go?
Well, I don't think, Neil, that this happens without consequence, regardless, whether it's whatever Senator Markey has been suggesting or whatever may happen if the president fails to be reelected, which is my hope that Vice President Biden is elected president, that we have a majority in the Senate.
Wait a minute. So you are not for Donald Trump. I didn't get that in my notes. All right. Continue. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, I do think that's, doing this before the election stirs those great emotions, certainly on both sides, the passions. But I think also the level of unfairness, as we see, we make reference to 4 years ago, and what Mitch McConnell said then, what Senator Graham said, what Senator Grassley said. All these senators are now switching their positions on the exact same issue. They can nuance it here and there, but really what they said was there'd be no, these would not be taken up in a presidential election year, and that's exactly what they're doing. In fact, they want to ram it through now, even before the election itself, which is really incredibly, I think, unfair. But aside from fairness, I don't think it makes good judges.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, the Democrats, too, have done a 180 on this, maybe because of the experience 4 years ago, but we could debate that ad nauseum. But Speaker Boehner, Speaker, I guess the one question I have for you is this idea that everything else is stopped. I mean, because of this, there's concern that a measure to keep the government lights on, to avoid a shutdown, is in jeopardy. Stimulus measure linked to the virus might also be delayed or denied. That it's proving, in Washington, these guys can't walk and chew gum at the same time. What do you think of that? Because that's the cynical view of what's happening right now.
Well, I understand, but these are all operate on separate tracks, and they can deal with the funding of the government or whether they got to do another stimulus bill or not. While the Judiciary Committee and the Senate focuses in on whoever the nominee will be. They can do all of this, but it is the United States Congress, and you put too many ingredients in a boiling pot, you're not sure what you're going to get.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. Joe Crowley, I'm just wondering, depending on how the election goes, of course, there are going to be a lot of big issues like the ongoing concerns about the virus. We have over 200,000 deaths in this country. We have spikes in cases going on all across Europe right now, particularly United Kingdom, where they're looking at a potential of a second lockdown. France is in a similar sort of conundrum. We already see Israel in a second lockdown. Are you worried that if Joe Biden were to get in, we could have a whole new virus crisis on our hands?
Well, I think that's not of Joe Biden's hands. I think it's out of Donald Trump's hands. I think the reality is the virus has a mind of its own in many respects. But I think there are things we could be doing and should have been doing to help reduce the effect of that virus here in the States. We mentioned the 200,000 mark. As has been said before, the U.S. is 5% of the population of the world, but we have 20% of the deaths related to COVID-19. We're the most modern country in the world, and yet we have more deaths than anyone else. There has to be something that's gone amiss and something that's gone wrong here that has led to this catastrophe here in the United States. So I do think that Joe Biden will have a great deal on his hands, amongst other issues, economic issues in terms of dealing with the COVID-19 fallout that'll have to be addressed as well. But I think that Joe Biden is up to that, and I look forward to seeing him as president and working with him.
Real quickly on this, John Boehner, the criticism of Joe Biden has been that because of his limited appearances in public and some of his sometimes stammering, responses to reporters, that he might not have his fastball for the debates, and that he could be in some trouble there. How do you think the debates go, and how important do you think they'll be to deciding this once and for all?
Well, the debates are going to become very important because, there are questions about whether Joe Biden is really up to this. I don't know. But we're going to find out during the debates. And on September 29th, which isn't very far away, I think Chris Wallace is hosting the first debate. I'm looking forward to it. But Neil, remember this. Polls don't decide elections. Voters do. And while pollsters try to figure out who's going to show up and vote, it's basically their best educated guess. When you go back to 2016, this race is almost in exactly the same place as it was between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. And when you go back 4 years ago, what happened? Trump's people showed up and Hillary's did not. And so it's going to be interesting to see who shows up and votes in this election. But I'm going to tell you today, I think this election is at probably 50-50. It's a very close election, regardless of what the polls say, and the voters will decide.
A final question for both of you: do you miss it? Do you miss, being in the arena and making the kind of decisions you were making? Now you're observing and doing very well in private life. I take nothing away from that. But Joe Crowley, to you on that, do you miss it?
I miss the people. I miss my friends and colleagues. I look back and look disappointed at it that not enough is getting accomplished. For instance, John and I have been working on the pension reform, the need to address the issue of Central States pension issue.
Right.
And yet that cannot seem to get the light of day in terms of the House and the Senate getting together and agreeing on that. I don't miss any of the lack of better term, the BS, that we had to deal with. But I can tell you that I do miss the people on both sides of the aisle, and I miss that interaction. But I also I'm enjoying the life that I'm in right now. I'm working with John Boehner in particular has been really fruitful and healthy for me.
Well, as you should. John Boehner, you had an inimitable response to that when I raised it last time with you, and you said something to the effect, let me get, if I've had the quote right, zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. So I think you were kind of saying, you're over that. You're over all that. Are you still over all that?
I'm very much over that. I'd rather set myself on fire than to get back in the middle of this.
All right. I think I know where you're coming from. Gentlemen, very good to see you. And it always reminds me when I do that you can discuss without it turning into a food fight. John Boehner, Joe Crowley, thanks for reminding us of that. It is still possible, even in this day and age.